Hi, my name is Andy O'Neill. Sometimes when you sync records between one data source to a database, you can't help but have to check the existence of each record just to make sure they're all there. But this can cost a lot of operations to search for each record. In this video, I'll show you how to bulk filter for records when you sync from one data source to another and drastically cut down on the number of operations used. But first, my name is Andy O'Neill. My company is Weblytica. You can visit weblytica.com for premium Integromat support or no-code development coaching for your next no-code project. All right, so for this video, I'm going to be using an RSS feed. Any data source you have would obviously work, but our RSS feed has a lot of records in it. And what I'm going to look at is syncing those records over to a Google Sheet. Now, there are times, not always, but there are times when I've run into the case where I have to check every record. I have to say, when I go through a list of records from my source data, I have to say, does that already exist, or do I need to add it? The problem is, when we have to do that, typically what we would do is we would search for every record. Is record 1 there? Yes. Ignore. Is record 2 there? No. Add it to the Google Sheet or the database. But if you have hundreds or thousands of records, even tens of records, that can use up a lot of unnecessary operations when you're searching for records that are already there. So I'm going to show you how to do that in a more efficient way and to bulk filter for those records instead. All right, so here's my RSS feed. Nothing special about that. It's a typical RSS feed. Let's go over here and we can see a Google Sheet. And I put the date and the episode URL. For this to work, you need to have something that's unique about every record. In this case, it's going to be the episode URL. It could be a record ID. It could be a GUID. It could be an auto increment. Whatever it is, it needs to be unique to the record from your source. So that, in this case, my SoundCloud RSS feed, the URL is unique for every episode or every record in my RSS feed. So I'm going to use that for my bulk filter. So I have 50 records here in my Google Sheet already, and from my SoundCloud, I'm just pulling the first 100 records just to make it manageable. So I have 50 here. So if I were to run this, I'm going to show you my scenario here. If I were to run this, I'm going to retrieve 100 records, and I'm going to search, and my search is going to find 50 records and filter those, and then I'm going to add the next 50. So we're going to run this and see how many operations this takes. Okay, so my scenario is running and I'm up to 43 searches now, 45. The first 50 records are already there. So what's happening is it's searching it, it's finding it, and then it's filtering them out. So these first records did not pass my filter because the records already existed. So I used 50 searches here for no good reason, just because the record was already there. It searched it and it didn't add the record. Now I'm adding my additional 50 records, and we'll let this run and we'll see where we're at on our operation usage. Okay, my scenario is finished, and you can see here I had 100 searches because there were 100 records or episodes in my source RSS feed. So it found those, it searched for all of those to see if they existed. It filtered 50 of them because they already existed, and it used 50 operations to add the 50 records that were missing. So we're looking at 151 operations to do this sync. Now, if I were to run it again, what would happen is it's going to search 100 times and it's going to filter 100. So we would use 101 if everything was in sync. Maybe you have to run this periodically during the day to make sure everything is in sync. This is going to chew up a lot of operations and be very expensive. I'm going to show you a different way to do this that'll get the exact same result, but will cut way down on the operations. All right, so here is my scenario that will bulk filter our records. And so this is how it works. Basically, we're going to do a search. We're going to do a single search here for any records that exist. And I'm going to go back over here just to show the difference. All right, so I've deleted 50 records. Now when we run this new scenario, we'll be adding the same number of records as the previous one that took 151 operations to update. Let's look here, and here is our first step. So our first step is we're going to search that sheet, and we're going to return all the records that exist, which will take one operation. Your triggers always take one operation. Searches always take one operation. Now what we're going to do, we're going to aggregate that unique value. So whatever the unique value is from your data source, I'm sorry, from the database you're syncing to, we need to get that unique value, and we're going to create a text string using the text aggregator. So in this case, I've searched my Google Sheet, I've brought back the episode URL, which is unique for every episode, and then I'm going to aggregate that. I'm going to put a comma behind that. So what this is going to do when this runs, it's going to get all of the 50 existing records. It's going to put them into a string separated by a comma. And that is what I'm going to use for my bulk filter. So let's just run this part of it right now, and I'll show you what this looks like. All right, so we use two operations, and down here is my text. And you can see there's a URL and a comma, and a URL and a comma, and a URL and a comma. That's all it is. It's this big block of text with all of these unique values separated by a comma. So what I'm going to do is in my next step, I'm going to go retrieve my 100 RSS feed items. So that will take one operation. And then right here is my filter. And this is my bulk filter. So what I'm doing is I'm taking this text, all of these URLs separated by a comma, and I'm saying this block of text does not contain my link with a comma. So every record in there is a URL, comma, or link, comma. So what I'm saying is this block of text does not contain the link followed by a comma. What that means is it's going to filter everything. Instead of using 50 operations for my filter, I'm going to use 0 operations to filter them because filters don't require an operation. So we're going to add those records now. And let's run this and see how it works. Okay, my scenario is finished. Now let's take a look at this. We have one operation used for our search, one for our text aggregator, one for our RSS feed, and 50. We added 50 records. So we've used 53 operations here to update, to sync our records. Now they're all there, all 100 are there. If we go back here and look at this again, to sync 50 records, we used 151 versus 53. So about 3 times as much. Now, if this scenario runs, let's say all the records are there and it's just running, you have to run it periodically to make sure everything's there. If I ran this scenario again, what would happen is it would use 1 plus 100 and it would filter everything out. So we would use 101 operations for this scenario to just make sure everything's there again. If we run this one, we're going to use 3. Let's actually run that and I'll show you. So it's searching our existing records. It creates that bulk filter. It gets our records and it has filtered all of them. So if this has to run periodically throughout the day, or every 5 minutes or whatever your requirements are, it's going to use 3 operations instead of 101. So that is how you bulk filter when you're syncing between 2 data sources. You use this text aggregator and you use the result of that aggregator in your filter to not allow the records to go through that already exist. I hope this has been helpful. If you like this video, subscribe on my YouTube channel and we'll see you next time.